Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of On the Reg. This is a special episode because I am joined by Reggie Compton
Mhm.
and I am Matthew Regine, your host. So we got a double whammy of the Reg going
Like a
on for
double
today.
reg,
Yeah, we got a double Reg.
like a double wedge.
So obviously this podcast is for entrepreneurs, marketers, business owners, leaders, really anyone looking to innovate their life through marketing, digital strategy, and leadership. Today I'm joined by Reggie,
Mhm.
who
The
actually
original Reggie.
the original Reggie, supposedly.
We should fight about it first.
She's been in marketing and has actually had an agency longer than I have. And
It's true.
so she's a really good source of information for the marketing side of things, for the entrepreneurship side of things. And so this episode, I think we're going to dig pretty deep into both of those topics.
Great.
Is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners from a background side of things for you?
That is a good question. Um, I've worked for 3 different agencies before I started my own. So I think that helped because I already had a basis of how agencies work and the things I liked and didn't like about them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so worked with a lot of different kinds of clients even before you and I met. So, yeah.
So based off those experiences, what made you decide to start your own agency?
Mostly I felt like I had too many bosses. So I felt like I had my clients as my main boss in my mind,
Yeah.
but really your main boss is your agency, right? Your agency bosses. So I just didn't like that conflict of interest. I wanted to have no bosses and work for myself, and then the only boss you would have is your clients, which just felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that drove you to it? Because honestly, I think entrepreneurship is over glamorized these days. Everyone says, "Oh, like, why work this 9 to 5? Like, you're lazy if you're not getting ahead and trying to carve your own path and create this freedom." But I think there's obviously a lot of risk involved with starting your own company. There's a lot of legwork and a lot of work involved. So, what were the things you kind of weighed in your mind in terms of, all right, I don't want these bosses, but like, here are the things I need to pay attention to when starting out?
I think more than anything, I was like kind of just kicked in the butt towards it because I don't work very well with other people. Like I work well with other people, but I don't work for people very well. Um, like I don't like to take you know, take command from people and um yeah, I kind of just naturally don't like bosses.
Yeah.
So I think it worked out. Honestly, like, one of the main things I didn't like was I wasn't, um, mentally doing very well. Like, I was having issues, at the company we worked for, which it shall not be named. But, um, basically, I had to go to, like, a therapist and be like, "I hate my job, I can't sleep, like, I'm so overwhelmed." And so I honestly got kicked into it because I just couldn't do it. Like, mentally, it just didn't work for me. Um, so yeah, there were a lot of factors involved, but um, I didn't choose to work for myself. Like, it wasn't a glamorous thing for me. It wasn't
Yeah.
like I want to be an entrepreneur, um, or I want to own an agency.
Did you have any entrepreneurship background, like growing up at all?
What do you mean?
I mean, you hear Gary Vee or you hear these other entrepreneurs and they're like, yeah, I was the kid with the lemonade stand and like I sold on eBay when it was early on. And for me, I'm like, I honestly never wanted to be an entrepreneur. It
Um,
was never something I aimed for. I was like, I'm gonna be this thing.
yeah,
I kind of fell into it too because I like being the best at something and calling the shots and
yeah.
deciding what path to take. So like where did you have any of that growing up?
I had a little bit of it, I think. Um, Looking back, I guess I was doing a lot of like I would sell stuff on eBay and like I I did have little things where I like could always make money or like I could figure out ways to do things in a way that were uniquely my own,
Yeah.
like come up with solutions where other people couldn't maybe or maybe didn't have that ability naturally. So, yes and no, like I think anybody can be an entrepreneur, but also, I I don't know. I feel like I'm just like super grateful that I have my own job.
Yeah.
Like it's just a job to me, you know. Like that was like the path that was carved out for me. I don't think it could have gone any other way.
Do you I don't know the full team structure you have right now, but do you view yourself as more of a freelancer, as more of an agency? Like, what does that make up? Like, does it matter? I guess.
So I used to view myself more as like a freelancer.
Yeah.
Um then I decided I wanted to be more professional. And I think one thing you find is, at least as a woman, like in business, and it's not as bad as it probably used to be, but you still get treated as a little girl a lot. Um, you get It's really funny having like a dude name like Reggie. So
Because people assume coming into
yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah. So like if I emailed someone that didn't have my picture, people would assume I was a dude first.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to see the sexism differences. Um, in some ways, when someone didn't know me, they just knew my name. And I just noticed, if you didn't know my gender, if you thought I was a dude, then I got super quick answers to the point. I didn't get a lot of pushback. It was really easy to communicate in business.
Yeah.
And then as a woman, not from everyone, but from some people, you get a different response, and it's just harder. So, um, where was I going with that? I was going somewhere good with that, but
Agency and freelancer.
yes, yeah. So, I think part of being a freelancer plus a woman, it kind of puts you in both of the boxes of like you're immature, or you could be seen as like immature.
Because you don't
Um,
have like an established reputation, even like as a freelancer.
you don't have a brand, right?
Yeah.
So you're not seen as something bigger. You're just seen as sort of like a glorified intern, like an older intern,
Yeah.
as is kind of how I see it. So, I actually got a business coach from Haley, and she helped me to go from thinking as a freelancer to thinking of an agency, or as an agency. Because I already had a business, I had an LLC,
Right.
I had an EIN, I was doing things legally as an agency and not just a freelancer. But that coaching helped me think of it more as an agency. And I think that ultimately gets you to a place where you can, well, you actually become more successful.
What do you view as like the core differences between who you were then and what you are now?
Um, so I mean, I think it's just mental. And then it comes out to others as like a different language. Um, so like mentally, if you're thinking of yourself not as a brand so much, at least for me, I didn't want to charge like fees. I felt bad about charging
Mm.
fees, even though it was in my
Just like
contract.
hourly. Like people think of freelancers as like, hey, it's hourly or they're expendable or
Yeah, or just not professional, right?
yeah.
You get a bill from Comcast and you pay it late. They charge you a fee and you pay it,
Yeah.
right? They're a company. You know they've got lawyers, that you know that they're not gonna gonna deal with you as a business,
Yes.
right? As a freelancer, you kind of feel like you can finagle, or you can kind of, you can debate on some things, you can
Yeah.
argue some things. So, yeah, so I feel like the main differences were mentally, and then that comes with actions. So, the way you present yourself, and I don't think your business has ever been this way, to be honest. Like I feel like Prospect Future, I've looked at you as like a good beacon for what to follow, or like maybe a mentor, because you've always had like branding first, and you've always you almost seem like a bigger agency than you are in many ways, because from the outside, the way I think you think is communicated more as a solid brand than
Yeah.
as like an expendable freelancer.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of unsure whether it worked to my advantage or not because a lot of agency owners these days are saying the best way to build your agency is from a personal brand perspective.
Mm.
And so if you create a small agency, which I think we both can say we have.
Yeah.
You create a small agency and you don't focus on the person or the people element of it, which I never did. We have a company about us page, but like I'm not on the homepage. It's never
Yeah,
been
your
like
face isn't.
work with Matthew type
Yeah.
of deal. Originally, I used to say we in everything that I wrote, even though it was just me when I started out.
Yeah.
And there is a we now, like there's contractors, there's employees, there's stuff like that that kind of feed into the mix. But um, I have been thinking like, hey, what if I did go person first early on, and they're like, hey, I have this intimate relationship with one person. I
Would
don't.
that have helped?
Yeah, would that have helped?
I
I don't
just
know.
don't think that's you though. You know?
No,
Like I think you're portraying yourself as who you are, which I think is important. Like for me, it's always been about authenticity.
right?
So for me, it was authentic to be more agency, but to sort of have that like freelancer touch. It's funny when you first asked me, I thought immediately. I actually kind of think of myself more like a lawyer. Like
Interesting.
I
Okay.
bill like a lawyer, I contract like a lawyer. I I think of myself, my business entity, more like if I was a lawyer.
Is that okay? So is that you speaking, or is that trauma from previous roles?
No, no, I think it's just how I see that our business should be seen. So, when I go to charge people a certain amount, I see us as coming in and providing a service that can protect a brand or it can expand a brand. It's worth a lot more than the hours that you're putting in.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're going in and we're doing 10 hours of cleaning in an office space, right? That's only going to last for a week or whatever. We're going in and we're building businesses sometimes from the ground up. So, in that sense, I feel like it's more like a lawyer that they're either going to protect your business, they're going to, acquire new business for you. Like they're acting in a bigger capacity. Maybe they're going to save your life, right? Like how much is your
No,
life work
I
worth?
think that's key is the bigger capacity
Yeah.
because I think you and I both have a very wide variety of expertise.
Mhm.
And when I think of freelancers or I think of contractors, it's like, hey, they do email or they do SEO or they do this or that. Whereas both of us and the teams that we have, like we cover a lot more ground as an agency and our skill set is a lot more. And like you're saying, expertise matters. So you're not paying for my time. None of my clients pay for my time. They pay for my expertise
Yeah.
because some months I spend less time, some months I spend a lot of time. And
Mhm.
it's knowing what to spend time on, knowing when to spend that time. So there's some things you literally can't do up front. And if you do them up front, it's going to bite you in the ass, you
Yeah.
know?
Like what?
Oh, you put me on the spot here. um, I mean, remarketing is an easy one. If you're
Mm.
starting with a brand new client, they don't have
There's no one
any,
to remarket
yeah, they
to.
don't have
Yeah.
any
Right,
audiences.
right, right.
Or if you're starting with a brand new client and they're like, hey, we need to get ads up and running. It's like, well, do you have pixels set up yet?
Yep.
Are we just going to drive traffic without being able to track? And I think this is a huge thing I see with a lot of other agencies is in my mind, tracking is always number one, most
100%.
important thing.
Yeah.
If you don't have just tracking properly set up, then you're flying blind. And whether what you're doing is working or not, you're not feeding the systems that make you and the company you're working for better.
Totally. And you have the expertise to be like, I know where this ends up. So I think you're thinking about it from the perspective of in how many months or years with this client they're going to come back or quarters or however long it is that you go to review things, it's going to bite you in the ass if you have no data
Yeah. This
eventually.
this brings me down, and I do want to circle back on what we were talking about, but this brings
Yeah.
me down another path. What were some things early on you wish you would have set up for your own agency that you didn't?
That is a good
If
question.
any, if any. I don't know.
I feel like so it's funny when you say agency because I do have an agency, but I don't really think of it that way, which is funny. Um, I feel like I'm kind of just like this rebel that doesn't want to work for someone else.
Sure.
So, um, from that mindset of like I'm being a rebel, I don't think I would have necessarily changed anything. Um, I got a lot of good advice from the get-go around, like, you need a contract. So, if I wouldn't have done that, I know I would have been really mad.
Yeah.
But I feel like you learn as you go. I try not to live with, like, regrets or what could I have done better because I feel like you learn, you know? As long as you're being authentic and you're trying the best you can, you get the best advice you can, which is what I did, and, you know, do it the best you can. So, um, I don't think I regret really much or wish I would have done too much. I mean, I wish I had more money from the front, like anybody that
Yeah,
starts a
who doesn't?
business.
Right?
That would've been nice. Like, I wish I could have invested in people first and then built from there. Um, Instead, it's kind of coming at it from, like, the grassroots efforts where it's like, "'Kay, how many clients do I have? Okay, can I afford
Right.
this and this?" Like, it's just scary to
It's such a weird
yeah.
dynamic for businesses and agencies in particular of, all right, I want to hire to serve my clients better,
Mhm.
but I can't hire until I have more clients, which means inevitably that during that period where you're serving more clients than you have now with less personnel, you are now serving the clients you already have worse. Potentially.
Potentially. Yeah.
Depends on your scope of work,
Yeah.
but I think that's always kind of been a struggle for me is like I I mean, I can't take on more.
It's
And
kind of chicken or egg problem, right? It's like,
yeah,
do you get money first or do you get the talent first? I think every agency deals with that though, right?
if you
Like,
have starting capital, I think it's not as hard to deal with that.
that's
And
why I would like more of that. Yes.
capital could also mean time, right?
Totally.
Like we
Yeah.
started agencies as single proprietors.
Yeah.
Whereas I look at some of these other agencies and I'm like, man, having a partner, even if they're lazier or not as equipped, that's still two people potentially not taking a paycheck for the first couple months of the company, both working to build something,
True.
you
Yeah.
know?
Partners can be tough though. My husband's going through that right now.
Yeah.
Just dissolving everything and I've heard a lot more horror stories than success stories from partners. So
I have too, frankly.
so
But
I wonder if you would have that would be your regret, if you would have done it that way.
it's like a grass is greener type of
It's
mentality
so hard to
too.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus it's how do you find the right complement? Because what I keep hearing is that partners shouldn't have the same skill set.
Right.
So if you're building an agency and you're building it off of the people in your sphere who most likely are coming from the same background as you, you're doubling down on something that one of you feasibly can do and the other person needs to be focusing on something else.
Yeah. I think yeah, partners would be nice, but um I think I still think I don't know. I just am wondering when the bottom falls out every time. I'm like, "Okay, got to get more clients." Like, when's the bottom going to fall out? That's kind of how I'm always going. And I don't know if that's the right way to think about things. It's probably not. But it's amazing to me that I still have enough clients today.
Yeah.
Like I still have recurring revenue. That's crazy to me.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. I think for me, I'm like constantly scared that clients are going to leave.
Yeah.
And so I do everything I can to make sure they know what we're working on, why we're working on it, being proactive. I think that's like one of my strengths as an agency, but
Totally.
all of that leads to not focusing on my own business as much,
Yeah.
which for 4 years, I mean, when we're talking about, hey, what regrets might we have had early on? I didn't do SEO the first 3 years, realistically. I did video and I gave up on it because I mean, video is very time intensive and I started focusing exclusively on clients and I grew off referrals. I grew off of, and I know you have too, which it's
Mhm.
helpful. I mean, if you do good work, I think karmically speaking, it'll come back to you,
Yeah.
but it is scary because sometimes you do good work and it still isn't enough.
That's why I think it's more that like lawyer mindset where
Right.
it's like you're kind of more about you. It doesn't really matter like if you have the best website in the world, right? If you don't have clients and you don't have expertise and you're not growing your clients, like you have the best SEO in the world. It doesn't matter.
Well, and I think it comes down to ethics too. It's a lot of agencies will hide behind practices that make them look better from their own marketing standpoint, but then they don't go and turn around and apply those same practices to the clients that they have.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big part. I mean, I am 100%, yeah, people refer me out. So, um I honestly don't regret like I feel like I look at you and I'm like you're doing a really good job of doing a lot more of your brand building and your actual agency building and your website, and like you actually have processes in place and you have, I look at you as something to aspire to be,
That's
honestly,
sweet.
because I haven't done a lot of that either. But I also don't feel like, I mean, I think it has, I do think it's worked for you though. Like I think you probably provide a higher value than I do because I didn't focus on that. So,
I think there's a insane amount of irony here because I would have not have gotten to the place I got to without your support,
oh,
frankly.
well, thank you.
I mean, the amount of business you've referred to me has grown my agency an insane amount. And you being able to have businesses that you could refer out in the first place is a testament to how well you've done.
I think that comes down to ethics too, though, right? It's like, yeah, you have, but the thing is, the funniest part is like, I didn't want to work with those clients. So it's a bit ironic, but like I wanted to serve the clients well. I still want them to, from the ethics point, like I want them to be successful and I still want
Right.
them to be served. But some clients I just don't want to work with. And I think that was another part of why I started working for myself was I was like, I just don't want to work. I don't want to work with these clients, but I have to. Like that feeling just always felt terrible to me. I hated that feeling. I couldn't be authentic. I couldn't be like, I don't
Yeah.
want to work with you. It
No, honestly, it's
felt fake, you know?
we talk about like, all right, what are the things that traumatized us in the past? And one of mine was working with clients that I wasn't allowed to get rid of. I had ones that would email me, text, and call me multiple times a day, the same person.
I believe it.
And
I've been there too.
they
Yeah.
weren't nice.
No.
And it's like, why would I choose to work in that environment when we have skill sets that can apply to any business?
Yeah. I remember one specific client I had where he was the nicest guy. He paid his bills and like he was just sold wrong. And he knew it.
Yeah.
Like the sale from the beginning was wrong. He shouldn't have been sold. And I had to try to save him. He wrote a bad review for the agency and they kept bugging me. They're like, you need to call him. You need to call him. You need to get him to take down this review. And I kept being like, my name's not on the review. The sales guy's name is on the review. He
Yeah.
said nothing but good things about me, and but I had to get on this call and it just felt so yucky. Oops, sorry. It just felt so yucky to have to call him and go, "Can you please take this down? It's not true. What can we do to get you to take this review down?" Because it was true. It's like, no, you should keep that up. And ultimately, he kept it up. And in the end of the day, I was like, you're right.
Well, I think honestly, there's a huge difference in sales tactics that I think is wild throughout our industry because you and I are very much truth first. Hey, honesty first. I don't offer guarantees. I think if you offer guarantee, you're full of shit,
Totally.
frankly, because every single business is different. Every single market and industry is different. Seasonality is different. So if you're coming in with promises, I don't care how much data you have to back it up, you have no idea what could go wrong.
No, but that's a part that actually is probably one of my negatives or something I'm really bad at is putting some projections to clients because I think there's a balance. I think it's like, yeah, let's be truthful that every client's different, every customer is different, the seasonality is different. But I have learned, and I'm not good at it. This is why I have one guy that works for me, and he's really good at being confident in numbers. So he'll put together numbers and he'll say, you know, reasonable estimate, here's what we recommend, and
Sure.
here's what we recommend you're gonna get.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed, right? But I do think there's something that I'm learning now around here's some projections are based on our experience and based on data. We can give you this projection. And it's not going to be perfect. But I have noticed you can be more helpful to your client if you're not always like, no guarantees, we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And I'm not like just laissez faire, like
Yeah.
who cares what's going to happen? Like there needs to be strategy.
Yeah.
And I think strategy comes way before benchmarks or projections.
Totally, totally. Yeah.
I don't know if
I
this
don't ever do that with new clients, like
yeah,
sales like you're talking
yeah,
about.
and it's
Yeah.
mostly new clients because other clients it's like you have their historical data. You set up their accounts so you know whether the data is actually good data or not. And
Yeah.
this is a huge part is like you're coming into a sales call and you're like, "Ooh, I'm analyzing all this data." It's like, dude, you don't know if that's clean. I've looked at accounts that had triple tracking on Google Analytics, and then I take over and they're like, "Why did my traffic get cut in by 2/3?" And it's like, "It didn't.
'Cause it
you,
wasn't right.
you were tracking triple."
Right?
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I think from a lawyer type of perspective, the way I approach working with clients is I'm not going to promise you certain things, but I'm going to give you an awesome strategy and I'm going to give you the best value for your dollar that you can get.
Mm.
And that's number one. Value for your dollar is an interesting concept because it's if you're like, hey, we want to achieve 10x revenue, well, it's like, okay, are you achieving 10x revenue while keeping a consistent return on ad spend? Or are your costs going up? Or is another part of your business, being sacrificed? Like there's just so many variables that I think, yes, you can rely on the data that you have to give projections, but everything's different.
It's almost like business decisions though, right? Like yeah, is that really the right number for you? Like where did that come from? Yeah,
Yeah. And I know,
digging into
I
that.
feel like we're a little bit different on this regard, but I don't like to work with fixed budgets.
Mm.
I think it
I
can
don't like to.
I mean,
I would like
it's
open-ended
nice because it's
budgets.
consistent for
Yeah.
us, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, dude, marketing is dynamic. Things change all the time.
Totally.
Sometimes you should be spending less. It's not a matter of greed of like
Totally.
always spend more and more and more. Like I'll tell clients, they're like, hey, we want to spend more. I'm like, now's
You
not the
should
time.
not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually I am totally in your boat. Um I think clients a lot of my clients have fixed budgets. So I think I agree with you. I work best with clients that have more of an open-ended budget and actually have set goals.
Yeah. It's
That's
the
the best
goals.
client.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
have this goal. We're going to hit it
Yeah.
by having an infinite budget.
100%. I mean, I would love to have that. I find that most of the times though, my clients are on a fixed budget and getting them around that concept is really hard.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like, are you working with like very bureaucratic companies? Are they on like net 30 invoicing? Like those are the ones that move slower and they have to create. And I get it. If
Yeah.
you're running a big ship,
Yeah.
you can't make all these minor turns when you have a destination in
Right.
mind. So I understand, and it's not like I'm unwilling, but I just think like, especially on a per platform basis, having fixed budgets can really screw you over. Like, I don't know if this happened to you, but 2 years ago, this is August of 2022, Facebook decided that they're just not going to provide data anymore and they're not going to be an effective platform anymore. And so it
Yeah.
dropped off.
Pushed a bunch of spend towards Google, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you gotta move back and forth
Totally.
and adjust based off of that. And I think that's what we get paid for. That's what true agencies do is they move things around to give you the most bang for your buck, not just capitalize. And that's where it's like, look, you can't charge me hourly for this
No.
because
Yeah.
that's not an hourly thing. That's a strategy. It's a decision. That's a background
Yep. Yep.
expertise type of
Yep.
deal.
Yeah. Do you ever get pushback when you do give like an hourly rate? Do you ever?
I've never given one,
Never.
not since I've been in an agency.
See, you're smart. I feel like this is where you built your agency first, and I was like freeballing it for however long. So I'm stuck with some hourly, but um, it's interesting because a lot of people don't like when you give them a set hourly budget. I don't know what it is. No, you're good. I don't know what it is, but set hourly budget. This is why I started thinking of myself more like a lawyer, because I'm like, we have to charge lawyer pricing, like not extreme court lawyers, for like corporations price, but like a solid small business lawyer. Like that's the kind of pricing I should be setting myself at. But people don't. A lot of companies don't like to pay lawyer prices for marketing work. It's very weird.
I got a couple things on this, but I want to get back to like what you mean
Yeah, yeah. No,
exactly.
you're good.
So, what's wild to me is that when there's economic downturns, marketing is one of the first departments that gets cut. And to me, that's absolutely insane. Marketing is one of the dominant drivers of your business, right? You need fulfillment. So you can't like cut the people that actually fulfill the business for you. But marketing's driving you the sales, it's driving you the leads. So why would you cut the marketing budget?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had a professor in school at CSU that he said the last people that get fired typically in companies are the salespeople. And I that always stuck with me because I'm like, that's how it should be. And I don't know if that's true. Like based off of your experience, it sounds like you've had the opposite experience, but I've found like economic turmoil. A lot of the times I recommend that customers pay more, that they do more marketing. Um, if they're not seeing good results or the economy's bad, I recommend to do more marketing.
Well, if the
It's kind
comp
of a hard sell with some customers,
no, I
but
mean, if
yeah.
the competition has the mindset of like, "Hey, we need to cut costs," and they cut their marketing, what does that mean? It opens up a huge piece of the pie for your company to come in and take that over.
And just people need to be sold more. Like for whatever reason, it's like the Budweiser effect, right? Like Bud Light hit some massive shit online and they doubled down on marketing. The first move the CEO made was we're going to do more advertising.
Yeah,
So,
course correct.
and I think it worked for him. It could be argued that it worked for him.
I mean,
They're everywhere.
yeah, saturation's huge. I mean, I think what's hard with some of the clients that I tend to work with is they have smaller budgets, so
They're tiny,
I
right?
can't saturate the full funnel like I'd
Right.
like to. I got to focus more on performance marketing than like holistic full funnel marketing. But yeah, I mean, if you can saturate the full funnel and you can do a video views campaign and only report on CPMs and view rate, like that's amazing,
Right.
you know, because
Right.
it's like those metrics, those are intangibles,
Yeah,
and that's
totally.
brand,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of my clients, they're set budgets. They don't really set budgets per platform. They do like monthly set budgets. A lot of them are because they're really low spenders. They're small clients. They don't have a lot of cash flow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I get it. I don't know if you've ever tried marketing for your own agency.
I'm too scared. No, I at some point I will. But it is like our landscape is like insanely competitive. You're
Yeah, and
competing with so many
it's
people.
wild when it's your own budget too.
Yeah, when it's your own money coming out of your pocket, out of your
Yeah,
bank account.
you're like, "Man, that hurt."
I should do yours and you should do mine.
I mean,
'Cause that way we would actually be like, "I actually recommend you spend more."
no, I think that
And we would
makes
actually understand why.
complete sense because sometimes clients like their CPA, cost per acquisition, or the ROAS will get worse, and I'm like, "It's okay. It's gonna come
Hold
back."
out, I
Yeah,
promise. Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you can't look at dailies. I mean, unless you have insane budgets.
No.
But the clients we work with, you can't look at dailies. You can't even look at weeklies unless there's anomalies, right? You have to look at the big picture and say, "Hey, we're on trend right now."
And it depends. Like you said, like, you can't make generalizations about this stuff because yeah, I have one client where it's an expensive wetsuit company, and people take forever to decide on a wetsuit. So it's like if you cut budget in March, you might see the ramifications for that in like November, December,
Yeah.
January. So, and with lead gen, it's like a whole different game. Sometimes it's super short. People need a roof and they do it the same day or the next day or whatever. Some people, it's like they're doing call center software and they're going to look for contracts for 2 years, or it's going to take them forever to get a contract like that. So, yeah. Yeah. The world we live in and work in is it's definitely very specialized.
Well, and that's the thing is like we're told often like niche down, it's going to make it easier, but one, that's incredibly boring in my opinion. Two, you lose the ability to get all the additional data and information and strategies that you have when you have a diverse set of clients. And so that's where I think niching down it might work short term, but if you do that long term, you are actually screwing your clients over rather than helping your clients.
I think it screws over yourself too, because like, you don't want all your eggs in the same basket. So like in during COVID, I really felt like because I had a lot of different kinds of clients, I stayed alive as an agency, which I didn't really know. Like that was a good test
Oh yeah.
for if you're gonna stick around or not. Half of my clients went out of business. Half of my clients killed it.
Yeah.
Like 3 times the revenue. We're still looking at versus 2020 or
God,
2021
COVID
numbers.
was such a unicorn year for so many. It's
Yeah, I'm
like
like, you can't even compare to 2020, 2021 because people were stuck at home. Like,
with stimulus checks.
yeah, yes, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I think the diverse is it's a blessing and a curse. Because like you said, you're more protected and when things change, but it means you're always working.
it's hard, right? It's like you can't just template something, say, this is how you do it. This is
Yeah.
the gold ticket. Here's the gold juice. It's just, yeah, and I think that's what makes it harder to sell to. Like, I don't think I would do paid ads for a while. Like, I would have to come up with a different strategy for ads because I just don't feel like it would be a hard sell if you didn't have referrals, if you didn't have someone saying, yeah, yeah, they're good at this, or just trust their process works because we don't have this gold ticket. Like, oh, you're this agency, I got your gold ticket, and I've done it for 16 other businesses this year, right?
Yeah. Well, I know you've been really active with like meetups and events
Hmm.
and webinars. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my first client I ever got was from a meetup group. And I started the meetup group because I was working as a barista and I had all this knowledge. I had all this like 2.5 years worth of agency experience doing Google ads and working with really big budgets. And I had a ton of experience. And I just felt like I at least needed to give someone some of this knowledge.
Yeah.
Like it felt bad just keeping it in my head. So I was like, okay, I'll just start a meetup and I'll just teach people what I know. You know, like I'll give them the basics and maybe it'll help them do their own thing. And I only had one person come to my first meetup, and he's still my client today. It's the wetsuit company, actually. But he's still my client today, and you know,
He
he's
stole your client?
He's
Oh,
still
still. Okay.
no, he's still
That's pretty different.
he is
Yeah.
still my client today. So, and that's actually how I've gotten a lot of my clients and then gotten referrals from there was because I was willing to teach someone. And I think I didn't come up with this as a marketing strategy for my company. I
Yeah.
didn't even know I was going to have a company. I just wanted to teach people what I knew. I had a year where I couldn't work for anyone else. I had a contract with my first agency where I legally couldn't work in my field of expertise for a year. So I didn't come at it from I'm trying to sell myself. I didn't even have business cards, right? Like I didn't come at it from here sign up for my thing or here's the next step. I literally just came at it from let me teach you what I know and give you as much knowledge as possible for the time that you're here.
That's amazing.
But it's super effective. I think if you come at sales from I want to give you something, I'm not trying to get something from you. It You get a lot more than you give, which is kind of crazy, but it
Yeah.
works.
I've never been able to wrap my head around networking events. Um, because frankly, I don't want to go to networking events. And the only reason I would go to networking events would be to build my business. So it's got like this sour taste where it's like
Yeah.
if I go, then it's incredibly self-serving. Everything I'm saying is self-serving. And because genuinely I don't love those types of things. So
Yeah. No, I get
that's
it.
been a hard thing for me to kind of and I still to this day I don't really do it,
I
you
actually
know?
closed both my meetup groups because I was I was feeling a bit that way. I was feeling a bit like it just doesn't feel right anymore. It doesn't feel like, and I never thought of them as networking groups, but they were.
Right.
But I wanted to teach people what I knew. So it's also funny because I've never actually been to a meetup that wasn't my own. I always plan them.
Yeah.
So more from like an event planner and a teacher sort of role. that I like to do. I There's a reason I never have gone to one. I like to host them, I like working them, I like organizing them, but I'm like you, I don't like to go to them either. It's just hilarious.
I mean, it's interesting that you enjoy teaching people because frankly, I love teaching people.
Yeah.
Does that mean people like to be taught by me? No. But it's one of those things where it's like, what are we doing with all this information? Obviously, we're making money off of it by putting it into practice, but like, it's a lot.
When
And
a lot of people, like, they'll come for the learning, but then once you teach them enough, they realize they don't wanna do it.
yeah,
They realize how much the job is actually very difficult, and it's worth paying someone to just do it for you.
I think for me, I love teaching when there's a level of investment,
Yeah,
meaning I'm invested in this person's success. So if it's a complete stranger, like still pretty hard for me to wrap my head around it. Right.
yeah,
If it's someone that's like a colleague that I'm working with, it's like no brainer. Like I love helping out peers, friends, whatever I can do because it's like, why not? Like I'm not gonna gatekeep all this information just because I want to make money. Like I already make money.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that obviously means it's not altruistic, right?
Mm,
I either want to see the fruits of that labor in the success of that person
mm.
or receive gratitude from it. Those are my two big drivers from a teaching perspective.
Yeah, I could see that, but I think everybody has, like, a driver. You're just seeing I think you're probably seeing it from if I put my time in, like, is my time well invested? It right?
It depends on
Like,
the
is it
person.
worth my
If it's
time,
someone
kinda?
close, then it's not a matter of worth my time.
Hmm,
You know what I mean? But if it's a complete stranger, then absolutely.
hmm.
Is it worth my time?
Yeah, and I think I approached it more as, like, I'm gonna give this information, and if you wanna take it, that's up to you. Like, I really believe in, like, people having their own, you know, their own drive or their own motivation.
Yeah.
Giving like, teaching people how to fish instead of giving them a fish. Like, I like to give people opportunities, but what I find is a lot of people don't wanna take the opportunity. They don't wanna learn.
Right.
So then, I end up getting business out of it most of the time.
Yeah. I do think the true legends of the world are the people who do like walkthroughs on YouTube. It's like you guys figure out a better way and you're just like by your good graces sharing it with everyone.
Like, I got you. Yeah, and I just think different personalities, right? Like, I don't mind teaching a stranger. Like, I'll teach anybody, and I don't really care if they use it or not. That's up to
Wild.
them.
Yeah, that's wild.
But it's interesting that we see it differently, though.
On a similar note,
Yeah.
what do you like most about what you do?
Um, Let me think. I I really do think I like helping. So it's part of my motto. It's like on my business card, which nobody uses anymore, but um helping businesses succeed. Like, I really do like being able to help. I like being in that helper role.
Yeah.
So ultimately, that's why I still, you know, try to acquire clients and why I try to serve them well. Because a lot of times I don't like what I'm doing, to be honest.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of what we do kind of sucks sometimes. Like, I don't like working for Google. I don't like working for Meta. I don't like working for Amazon. There's a lot of things personally I don't like about those businesses, and I don't think they serve us at all, really.
No.
They're constantly calling us from these toll-free numbers. They're not even from the US. They barely speak Google ads or Facebook ads. They don't even know what they're talking about. And they pester you. They try to get between you and your client. They try to recommend things that sometimes kind of help, but generally will mess up your account. Um, so most of the time I don't like a lot of what I do, but I know it's super impactful for businesses. So if I can help them use these tools and do it super effectively and efficiently so they don't get caught in these traps with Google and Facebook or Amazon, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you don't like always what you do, but you like why you do it.
Yeah. I see that people need the expertise and they don't have it. And a
Yeah.
lot of times they're not gonna put the time in to learn it, or they
Well,
don't have the ability to learn it.
the alternatives are also pretty sad. Like if you are listening to those reps' advice, their one goal is to feed Google more money,
Yeah, that's
right?
their goal.
So
They're
that's
salespeople.
that's not going to help. That's not going to help the clients individually. Or if clients go to another agency whose number one goal is to grow their agency, which again, it's okay. It's okay
Yes,
to want to grow, but at the
yes.
same time, like I think it's unbelievably easy to make money in this world. I think it's very, very hard to make money ethically in this world.
True. Yeah.
And so I would rather make it in a way that is agreeing with my morals than sacrifice my morals and drive a Bugatti.
Right, right. Yeah. No, you're right. I've thought about that a lot too. It's like, yeah, there's a million ways to make money if you're smart enough and you have enough drive and you're healthy and everything, right? Like we could do a million other things. Um, but yeah, I think it feels good when you're sticking to your guns or you're and like I'm not all altruistic either. Like I'm all about capitalism. I'm all about you work hard and you make money and you can build a business and you don't have to make the same amount as someone else. Like you can make as much as you want, right? Or as little as you want. You can kind of go both ways.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not altruistic. I'm not a nonprofit. Um, but I I definitely believe in helping people should be at least part of any agency. Because if you're not doing that, if your goal isn't to help businesses, then you're just money greedy.
My goal is to help people I like. And honestly, I think I'm going to change my mission statement to something along those lines.
To people I like. I like
No,
that.
for real
Let
though.
me
It's
like
like,
you first.
look, if you're going to yell at me, you're not going to listen to me. I tell you things that are going to help your business. Even if you're paying me a boatload of money, I'm not going to work with you anymore
Yeah,
because I don't enjoy it. I don't like you.
totally.
You know
That's
what I
like my
mean?
second line is like, unless they don't like you. Yeah. Unless you're a pain in my ass.
Which there are those that I still like or I still want to see succeed.
Totally.
You
Yeah.
know, I've had plenty of those. And it's like, you know what? It's fine. I get it. And especially if they're small businesses like us, it's like, okay, I really get it
Yeah.
because every dollar matters. And I mean, when you're a small team, you can't have all the departments.
Right.
You can't have accountants, HR, legal,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
everything in between. So when you have 3 or 4 people you're working with, it's like you need all the help you can get. And sometimes you can't pay for all that extra help. And
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
You know,
No, and I actually like clients that like at the time I don't like it, but I do like clients that are super engaged. Like, I don't need you to call me every single day or call and text me all the time and all this stuff, right? But I do like clients that are more like leaned in to their company and they want to know a little bit more about why would you do it this way or hey, I saw this and I think this could be good for us or I saw this ad and this didn't make sense. And at the time I'm always like, I have to change the ads or I have to look into it or maybe this is a waste of my time, but at the end of the day I like clients that do push me a bit more and question some things. Cuz I feel like at the end of the day it's like you're not going to push yourself always, especially if you're the business owner and you don't have to adhere to a lot of rules and you don't have to adhere to someone else asking you questions or making you go to trainings or anything. I like the clients that'll push me a little bit. The clients that are the worst are the ones that don't listen. Those are like top of the chain. I just don't want to work with them. If they ask me questions and then they don't take any advice, that's the worst.
yeah.
Um,
They almost always need the most help though.
yeah, weird, right?
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing. But the ones that I secondarily don't like are the ones that just go autopilot and you never hear from them for like 6 months.
I think it depends on the industry for sure in terms of
Yeah.
autopilot, because like sometimes they're doing stuff behind the scenes that we're not aware of. But say, for example, you start a t-shirt company and as the business owner, you haven't released any new designs in 6 months, and literally all you do is you fulfill orders. That's not the type of business I want to work with.
No.
If it's, hey, we're doing this pop up shop, or we release these 10 new designs, can you push these? Or, hey, we're thinking about TikTok ads, or, hey, I'm not seeing what we want from Google Shopping. Like, love that
Yeah.
because you're involved. If your only mechanism for growing your business is paying someone else to grow your business, you shouldn't be in business.
Well, it doesn't work either. I think that's what I most don't like about it is when somebody just says, "Here, just make me money." It's like, "No, it's your business." Like, I it doesn't work. It doesn't work to just sit back and say, "Make me money." Like, I every time I've done it, the client's not happy, I'm not happy, results aren't as good. You gotta be leaned in. You gotta be trying things. You gotta be excited about your business. You gotta be bringing stuff to the front. There's an energy to it that I think, like, if I just sat back and had someone else run my business for me, I think it would slowly die. Like,
Plus, think about this. I mean, products aren't that complicated.
right,
Services aren't that complicated. So if you want me to run your business and you're willing to pay me, and say I do crush it for you, you're making a shitload of money. Why wouldn't I just start that same business for myself and
right.
market for myself? Like, that's the thing is you need to have buy-in to your own business. Otherwise, if I see that your business is making money, and a lot of marketers do this, and I'm not saying I don't know how I feel about it, but if if I see you're making a bunch of money and you're not doing anything, I might as well just go do that myself and market it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever wanna do that? Do you ever just wanna, like, "Okay, I'm just gonna run a business now instead of run other people's marketing?"
I'd love to run an e-com business just because I see how much opportunity is out there in terms of the gaps that most businesses aren't filling for themselves, but it's a ton of work.
Yeah.
It's a ton of work on the marketing side by itself,
Yep.
let alone manufacturing, fulfillment, customer service. So like I get how overwhelming it can be to run an e-com business, but I would love to do it more, especially because I don't know all the ins and outs of e-com, right? All the ins and outs of running an e-com business. Because when I work with clients, I dig in on the marketing side. I get a holistic picture and I look at the data from a marketing standpoint and a data integration standpoint.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I learn the business inside out. Because again, if I learn the business inside out, just do it myself.
Right. Right, there's not that yeah. I think it would be fun too, though, to run a business to get some of that insight, right? Like, what are the things I'm missing and to be motivated to learn it? Because I
Right.
think that's the thing, right? That why would you learn it if you're not gonna make much of an impact on the marketing side? Like, learning fulfillment could help you in the long run, but how much?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's definitely things that if we ran our own businesses, and I know plenty of marketers who have, and I've asked them questions about it, and they're like, it's really not that much extra.
Yeah.
There are things that would help us do our jobs better, but like, is the marginal improvement worth the amount of time it would take us to learn a full another skill set?
Right.
And I think in our industry, marketing is already infinite in the number of skill sets and platforms and tools that we can learn that you have to pick and choose
Totally.
what you're focusing on.
And it's always changing. I think that's the part where it's like I do like teaching people this stuff because it changes every 2 seconds. So it's like, okay, I have a grasp on it now. I want to teach it to you now where it's at, but I know in 2 months it's going to change. So then I have more to teach you. I don't know. Something about that's fun too. It doesn't get boring. Like it never gets to the point where you're done learning, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
It's also a hamster wheel though. So it's like
Yeah.
it's two sides of the same coin where it's like this is fun. It always keeps me on my toes, but man, I'm tired of running all the time.
You're like, "Can I take a break?" Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part again of being an agency versus a freelancer is we have so many things under our bucket and you can pick and choose, but even if you pick and choose only a couple things, you still have a lot to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think you do this more than I do with yours because you've gotten into like email marketing and things like that I really don't dive into. I've really stayed in my lane in a lot of ways. Like I'll tell clients, like, I'll venture into, little SEO here or a little Amazon there, whatever, little email here or there, and I just keep going back to the basics because I feel like what
Which
you're
is
saying, which
paid
is
Google, paid Meta,
paid Google and paid Meta. Yeah,
and some Amazon.
a little bit of Amazon because it's so similar to Google.
Yeah.
It's like a really dumbed down version of Google, basically. So, yeah, but I've really stayed in my lane in a lot of ways because and said no to things when yeah, because it's just too much to keep up with. I wanna be good at what I'm handling.
Yeah.
But sometimes that puts me in a bad place too. Like, I think um if I had more capital or if I had more time, I would invest in like maybe a web part of the company, like developers, designers, email marketing, something like that, like kind of what you've done. Maybe an Amazon component, maybe there's, a fulfillment kind of component to it. I feel like that'd be really fun to get into other things, but I just keep going back to the same lane because there's just so much to keep up with. Keeps me busy enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at all. I'd have to hire it. So
Well, that's what they say is like you should be the dumbest person in the room as a owner.
I'm starting to feel that way.
Everyone around you should be the ones who know things, and you should just coordinate.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that way.
That's nice.
Michael's getting really smart. So
That's good.
yeah.
That's really
hmm
good.
Yeah. He's already really, really smart. He's a doctor, he's a PhD. And then he decided to learn ads so he didn't have to be in a lab all day. But man, he's like way smarter than me. I'm just like, you present the data. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Um,
But hiring's another one of those things. I don't know if you want to talk about it all because you actually had employees or have employees, and I still haven't taken that leap into like having a full time employee. Like he's still 1099ing for me.
it's a bit of a sore subject for me, frankly, just because I feel like I can be a good leader, but my track record shows otherwise. Um, but it comes back to you have to have people who have buy-in in not only you, but the company you're running. And so when you hire employees at our size, either you're not paying them very much because we don't have, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I don't have massive amounts to pay people. Like I can't hire a full account strategist expert at a 80 to 100K salary unless I get 20 more clients
Right.
first. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can't bring in people with huge expertise, which means you need to teach people from the ground up, which means more time, right, coming out of us.
Yep.
And if you spend all that time investing in someone at that level and then they leave, you have to do it again, right? And that's painful. The second part of it is from an employee standpoint, if you are a small company, that usually means that they need to wear a lot of hats too,
Yeah.
right? Unless you get to probably, I'd say the 6 to 10 mark. Once you get to there, you don't have to wear as many hats. And again, it obviously depends on what your bill rate is to clients, how many clients you have, how much revenue you actually have to put back into your workforce. Um, but if you're a small company and they're wearing a lot of hats, like that does, I mean, unless you find the exact right personality, which I mean, I am which is why this hasn't happened to me. But if you don't find the right personality, that creates burnout, you know, that creates things breaking potentially for clients if someone's doing things that they're not super competent at. And it creates frustration because they're constantly on a learning curve, right?
And I feel like they want to fly the coop, right? So it's like you're almost like they're the baby, you're teaching them, they're growing up, and then eventually they want to go do something else. They start to figure out what they like and what they don't like. And I feel like that happened. Like I did that to the first agency I worked for. They wanted me to stick around. They knew that the investment time was heavy to teach me. But then I didn't want to work for them anymore.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like my boss ultimately. That was like the biggest thing. And and so you spend all this time investing in that. Yeah, you hope they don't want to fly the coop, but of course they do.
Honestly, it's not necessarily that I hope they don't want to, because like you said, mentoring and training people, it's amazing. I want people to get better. And obviously, as a smaller agency, I can't always provide better. And the skill sets, frankly, that I feel like I'm working with and training people up on, they can make more elsewhere. So it comes down to, do they see the opportunity of growing this company and having the freedom and flexibility that we create from being in a smaller company rather than working with an agency or working with a corporate company or working with a mom and pop business directly? Like, do they see the difference there?
Hmm.
Right. Um, I think that's pretty key.
Would you hire like 5, 6 people if you had enough revenue to do
Easily.
so?
Easily.
I think that's the thing too. I think it's like a numbers game. Like 1 or 2 is scary. Like 6 isn't. I don't know
Well,
why.
the one or two, the other part of it is, look, I do want them to get better, right? Meaning get better at what they're doing, but also get better for themselves. So if they leave, great. What needs to happen before they leave, if you're spending all this time on them, is they need to help build your company up somehow. They can't just do work, because that's what contractors do, right? They need to build the company. So either that's systems or that's sales or that's ideas. And being, smaller agencies, it's like, I mean, I'm smart and I do a lot of things, but like, I don't know everything. I don't know what I don't know.
And it's like that's what I've always struggled with though, is like what would motivate them to care so much about your company? And I'm like, I don't know if someone else would. I don't know if I would. Like I don't go I'd never worked for companies, and maybe this is just my personality. But I never went in to work for a company and said, "Hey, I'm going to make this company 10 times more than what."
I think it's
You know what I mean?
flexibility.
Yeah.
I think it's work culture. I think it's moral code of conduct in my mind. And then
It's more of the softer things.
I think well, the biggest one is potential revenue share, potential stock. Obviously, as a small company, I'm not going to have stock, but like, hey,
The ownership.
we start growing, and if it's due to your efforts, you're going to get compensated for it. Because no small business owner in their right mind, well, I mean, this happens all the time, but no one in their right mind should think, hey, this person's going to grow my company a lot, and I'm not going to pay them anything for that growth. They're just going to keep making their salary. Like, that doesn't make sense. No one would stick around if that happened.
Right.
So that is the potential. Is
Yeah.
you get to grow something from scratch, and like plenty of people, I mean, you had your chia pets or your neo pets or your plants in your house or your dogs or your kids,
Yeah.
right? You like to see something that you grew with your own hands, and like you grow with your hands and you reap the rewards of that growth. I think that's the beauty of working with a small business. Plus, we don't have nearly as much bureaucracy.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah.
we don't have people jumping down your throat of like, hey, you need to like, I mean, at least I don't. Like, I'm not like, hey, you need to do it this exact way, or hey, you need a XYZ type of deal. Like, we have half day Fridays, we have flexible vacations. Like, there's way more benefits to working, I think, with a smaller company as long as they have their shit together than working with a huge one that doesn't actually care about you.
Right. Right. Yeah. I feel like too maybe there's a piece of like getting your employees invested in the clients. Like I'm trying to think about it from my perspective where it's like I didn't like multiple bosses. I didn't like the company boss and then have the client boss. So maybe there's something there too. I don't know. I'm
I I agree. And if your company's not growing and you're not getting new clients, then it's not keeping it interesting enough
right.
because you're sticking with the old ones.
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
sometimes, I mean, marketing, sometimes it's boring. And sometimes the clients we make money off of are the boring clients. Like, not everything's glamorous. You know, I work
Yeah.
for a lot of home service contractors, and it's not like we're doing these dope videos and doing all
Right.
these sweet email campaigns, all this. Like, sometimes the simple stuff is what works best for them.
Yeah.
So I do agree, having better clients and new opportunities is huge. And
And also
I
just the investment in the client is also what I mean. Like having your employee where they're like you're like, "This is your boss." Like, "I'm your boss kind of. Like, I pay you and I'm gonna get mad if things don't go well, but, like, you serve the client, like, you know, you like the client. I know you like the client. I know they make you money. You see how that makes you money. You make them money. So maybe there's something there about like the ownership of that relationship or the ownership of that company and the like the almost having not having their own business because I don't think that like ultimately it's like, yeah, well, why don't I do this for myself? But um you have like some comfort egg that you're in a company. You don't have to deal with all the stresses that we do as owners, but you don't have to deal with all the paperwork and the accounting and all the, all the
Yeah.
stuff that we have to deal with. But maybe there's something there around like if you can get someone invested in your clients enough, maybe that's
I
I don't
think
know.
I
I
think
haven't cracked that nut yet.
I
That's
understand
why I
what you're
keep
getting
talking about
at.
it.
I think you need to have at least two people on a similar schedule or a similar amount of time invested. So, two part-time employees, two full-time employees, or an employee and multiple contractors. Because here's the thing: if it's just one boss and one employee, they don't have anyone to bitch and moan at,
Yeah.
right? Like it's huge. I'm not knocking it. Like when you're an employee, you want to talk shit about your boss. That's fine. It's fine. But if you don't have anyone else to commiserate with about that boss, that makes it a lot harder.
And maybe
So
that's why it's like it feels better to have 5 or 6
no, I
employees than
yeah, I
just
agree.
like one extra person. You kind of feel I don't know, I just kind of feel bad cuz yeah, they're not a partner.
Yeah, you have a really warped hierarchy because it's just one and then one below.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's two people and it's a partnership, you're equal level,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or if it's part time, like obviously it's not that as big of investment, so the discrepancy isn't that huge. So I
Right.
think that's big. Moving forward, I'm likely going to go predominantly contractors for the majority of things, but long term, my goal would be 6 to 10. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to have a 50, 100, 500 plus agency because I want to do really tight knit, intense work for each individual client. And I think having that would be huge. And I like working around people.
Yeah,
And I
me
think
too.
that's a
You
difference.
need your law firm.
My law firm. Yeah. Yeah.
I seriously think about it that way. I almost thought about this idea of like because I've been trying to crack this nut for a while. Like, how do you have agency employees? Like, it just doesn't seem to really, in my mind, it doesn't work. And maybe because I didn't like being an agency employee, but like if everybody has they're their own lawyer and you work together in a law firm. That's how law firms work. Like they're each individually their own expert and they bill separate like it's but they bill under the same I don't know.
Okay. Well,
There's
that's an interesting
something
thread.
to it. There's something to it. I haven't cracked it yet, but feel free to work on that if you
No,
want to crack that
I
nut.
like that idea. My first reaction was you can't have everyone be experts because then you don't have the people who do the more in-depth specific specialty work, right?
But that's what the what do they call them in law firms? Those are like the the starter people that they're lawyers too, but they do all the paperwork.
Yeah, so it'd
They
be
do
like
all
a
the shit
marketing
work.
manager.
Everybody has to do shit work.
Yeah.
Just you do more of it the first couple
But
years of
I
your
mean, you bring up the law firm example. Law firms usually start with multiple partners.
yeah, yeah, it's true. So maybe it would be good to start with a partner.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Matt, one day we're gonna meet and we're gonna have paperwork. It's gonna be like, all right, let's do this. Let's grow. Let's grow our enterprise law firm.
Yeah.
6 to 10 people. I see it. I see our future now, Matt. It's bright.
We're winding down here. Is there anything that you think our listeners would like to hear or anything that we didn't talk about today that you'd like to cover?
Hmm. Well, man, it's just so specific. Um, I don't think so. I mean, there's a million things on my brain, but uh, yeah, it's been fun to sort of talk about agencies and marketing, dorky stuff. I feel like a complete dork
Was it the right decision?
to start my agency.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep, yeah, 100%.
Do you have work-life balance being a business owner?
Way better. Yeah,
Better.
way better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I was like waking up at 3 a.m. for a while. I couldn't get back to sleep and I was going nuts. Like I would throw up. And I wasn't pregnant. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., throw up, think about my emails and my clients and Man, I cried so much in my first agency, and I worked so many hours, and I probably became an alcoholic at first. Like, I'm way, way, way more balanced now. So 100% right decision for me.
Yeah, I think I'm more balanced. I was doing like 80-hour weeks, tons of trauma, nightmares, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's I'm still stressed. I'm stressed out of my mind, you know, but it's a different type of stress, and it's stress that I choose
Yeah.
versus stress that someone else what I kind of felt like someone else was putting on me.
Totally. No, 100%. It's different when you know it's stress that you are making money off of. It's like, okay, I this is my mortgage payment, or this is my, the dog goes to the vet payment or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's a different sort of stress to that and working really hard than I think the stress of meeting some need by a company. So, yeah, it's way better to be a business owner.
Yeah, and you're in control.
Yeah. And it's a good time to do it because you can sit at your home on your laptop or in a coffee shop.
I don't think that's my takeaway from this. I'm not advising people to do it. I really realistically I don't think it's for everyone.
No, it's not for everyone.
Um
No.
it is a grind. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made. It's honestly, I think the biggest thing is it's lonely.
It's super
It's
lonely.
incredibly
Yeah,
lonely, and
you're
that's
right.
hard. And if you want to, exchange loneliness for more money or more freedom, great. But neither of those is guaranteed.
Yeah, and it's not always more money,
Or
right?
more
Like
freedom.
yeah.
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 I can't go on vacation without working because I'm the
Mm,
one who does the work,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Me taking maternity leave is like very tricky.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hoops to jump through, but is it worth it for me? Yeah, totally. And I think my personality is like I said, I don't like people telling me what to do. I like to be more rebellious. I don't like it when things don't work well and I can fix it and they won't let me. I don't like people being my boss, so and I like figuring stuff out. Like
The figuring it out's fun.
I like it. So,
Yeah.
for me it's awesome, but it's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you. This was a lot
Thank
of
you.
fun.
Thank you for having me, Matt. Been lovely.